Ready?
Mm-mm. All right, now I'm ready.
Yeah, don't be making drinking noises in the middle of my freaking podcast, all right? We're busy. Ugh.
Busybodies.
Hello, you are listening to FM Radio by Fanatix Media.
Hi, this is Kevin,
This is James.
This is Deanna.
and we are Fanatix Media Radio. And you heard a different voice this time. You heard three voices. That third voice is Deanna. She is a member of Jackalmen Games, our team that used to play Star Wars Destiny.
Womp womp.
She will be joining us on this podcast. She is a member of the Fanatix community. She goes and plays there. And she will be joining us on future podcasts. So, Deanna, how are you now?
Not so bad yourself.
I don't remember how they respond. I never can remember. Pitter patter. Anyways.
Pitter patter, get her at it.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. Come on.
There you go.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. There you go.
Okay, let's have a small aside before we go. Have you seen the episode where Riley and Jonesy buy roids from Stuart?
I don't think so.
I don't
Okay.
think so either.
It's like season 4.
I think we're in season 3.
Okay, so they're just trying to get gains, bro. They convince themselves that they need roids. But as they're trying to convince themselves that they need roids, it keeps jump cutting between them staring at like the mirror in the workout in the gym to like them, like a camera shot behind them, and in between cuts Riley's ass is like showing, like he pulls his shorts too high up so you can see his butt cheeks, and Taryn is just screaming the whole time when she's watching it. She did not need to see Riley's butt, but oh man, I love that show. That show is perfect. Spoilers for season 4.
That's not too bad though. At least it's like nothing like major.
Oh, I could give you some Letterkenny spoilers if you'd like.
Don't you dare.
I'm gonna need
I
you to
think-
dial it back there, Squirrely Dan.
No,
Dial it
if
back about
anybody
25%
is
there.
Squirrely Dan, it is you, James.
First off, go yourself.
No. No, first off, hear me out.
No, you done messed up.
No, Squirrely Dan is a wonderful, knowledgeable person. He's
Is that what you
sweet.
appreciates about him?
That is what I appreciate about James. He's wonderful and kind, and he only has his friend's best interests at heart. And
I don't think we're talking about the same person.
And
You two. All right. I'll take this podcast and go somewhere else.
no,
Take the whole podcast.
no, this is mine. You can't take it. I can't edit it if you walk away with my podcast.
I really want this entire section in the podcast, Kevin.
I will be editing it. It will be in, but it will be edited.
Just put some bleeps over the cuss words. No, no big
Because
deal.
of James. Because it is first of all.
So
First of all,
we haven't. James and I haven't really cursed this entire
Okay.
2 episodes that we've done. This whole catalog of episodes that we've done. There's been
And
no
now Deanna's
cursing.
here, and it's
And now
all right.
Deanna's here, and she's turned this into some kind of back alley podcast.
This is what I bring out in people. Just the worst side.
James and Squirrely Dan are one and the same. I'm Daryl, though.
new team named Squirrely Dan instead of Fortune Voyager. There you go.
Yes.
Squirrely James. Okay, that's not what this podcast is about yet. Hold on, we gotta do like the actual podcast now, please.
Okay. I'm here.
Sure.
In the last episode, James was talking about pre-releases for Pokemon and Dragon Ball Super. How'd those go, bud?
Yo, honestly, it went fantastic. Those were the 2 big things that happened last week here at the store. Friday was the actual release for the new Pokemon Sword and Shield set, which is fantastic, by the way. If you've ever liked Pokemon, now's the greatest time to get back into it. The new base set is like full of staples. You can pretty much just buy from that set and build a working, functioning deck and just be good to go. But yeah, we basically sold out a product for that immediately on launch day. And then Saturday was our like big tournament day that we normally have with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And we had big showings for both of those. Had over 10 players for each. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was pretty good. It was actually our win-a-box for Pokemon. So we had everybody bringing their best deck from the last format because Sword and Shield isn't legal yet. And had some good stuff going on. We've actually got a couple deck techs that were filmed and are going to be up on the channel relatively soon, as soon as I can get done editing them. So Saturday was fun, and then Sunday was our pre-release for the new Dragon Ball Super set, and we expected 6 to 7 people because our local scene for it's not huge, and we actually get like a lot of cross travel and play with the Bainbridge group, which is a town in Georgia about hour and a half away. And they were having their pre-release on the same day because that's the only time that you're allowed to sanction the pre-release. So we weren't expecting any of them, but all the Troy guys ended up coming down to our store, which means that we had like 10 plus people for that pre-release. And we we had gone through a very long story, which I won't get into here now, with our distributor, where we went from ordering like 6 boxes to they had us down for 30 boxes, which is ridiculous. And then we finally talked them back down to like 10 boxes. And we were worried about how well that was going to sell out, and we completely sold out of everything on Sunday. So we had 3 really big days back to back as far as like profit goes, and 3 really big days of like getting good communities here in the store and actively playing. So it was a pretty good time.
Deanna, were you part of those at all?
I wasn't a part of either tournament, but I was at the store Saturday as far as when they had those tournaments going, and me and some of my other friends had some other stuff going on. We were actually playing a board game, and we played in the back room because I know Saturdays can be busy and they have tournaments. So we played in a separate area. Well, it was a good thing we did because as those tournaments were going on, the entire front room was completely slammed. There was like nowhere to sit down. I was like, holy crap. So I can attest to like those tournaments and stuff like that actually going out really good for them because it was slammed.
Counting the seats in the middle room and the TCG seats in the front room and our wargaming like table seats, we can hold somewhere around 70 players. And like she said, there wasn't like a place to sit on Saturday. It was great.
No, there was nowhere. I was like, holy crap.
That's awesome. That's what you want to see at a game store.
Right?
Especially your favorite game store.
The best game store in all of the eastern/central area.
I've been to your game store, Kevin. It's pretty cool.
It's so much better now. Just to talk on Highlander really quick, which is my local scene. It changed owners. If you follow tabletop content creators, there's a group called the Meeple People, and
I know that.
So Meeple People has a bunch of members, and the 2 main guys took over for Highlander. They are now owners of Highlander, and it was a really not well decorated store. He covered the windows with carpet and magic cards and stuff. Like, it was a dark cave, and they have since ripped up all the carpet and put fresh paint on the wall and opened the windows and sorted all the magic cards that were blocking the windows. Because I know you're probably pictured just like magic cards taped to the window. It was just boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of magic cards.
Oh, wow.
That like stacked up and blocked the windows. So it wasn't just a basement, it was like a cave.
Oof. Yeah, we actually have an entire room dedicated to our magic bulk right now because we want to sort it, but we're not gonna. So
that's one thing where
So
you
many boxes.
you tell a player like, I'll pay you $100 if you come in for a day.
shh, I'll pay you $100 if you come in for the next 2 weeks. That's how much bulk we have.
I will pay you an X amount of these magic cards if you come in and sort them.
Yeah, you know those big like 3-row boxes for cards
Mm-hmm.
that hold like 5,000 cards?
Yeah.
We've got like 10 of those.
Ugh.
Full of cards. And then a countless number of like single row long boxes.
Oh my god.
That's going to be a chore.
So what special events do you have coming up in the next week?
I have my calendar ready for you.
Ooh.
So, next week, starting on Sunday, so our last weekend, like we were just talking about, was kind of like our big release weekend. This weekend is going to be a little lackluster as far as events goes. Everything's kind of taking a break, getting ready for the next week, which is going to have some big stuff going on. But really the biggest thing to note for the week of the 16th to the 22nd is our X-Wing guys 6 of them are driving up to Birmingham, about 3 hours away, for a big team tournament. And Eric's actually a part of that, one of our other teammates. So probably going to hear a little bit about that on the channel. I'm going to see if he wants to do a vlog like what we used to do and see what we can do about that.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
But yeah, if you want to know what other like normal events that we have running, check out dothanfanatics.com or Dothan Fanatics on Facebook. The schedules are both posted on there, or you can come to the store and we got a massive calendar set up too. But let's see, we got board gaming on Tuesday and Friday. We got Magic on Friday. We got new comic books on Wednesdays. We got Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh on Saturday. Dragon Ball Super on Sunday. And yeah, I think that's most of the big events that we run.
So you're saying that it's a pretty standard day or standard week at the store,
Right.
but that sounds like jam-packed week full of fun.
And that's not even counting the 9 separate D&D store ran sessions that we have going on.
Oh yeah, and including the one that we have on this podcast coming up in a little bit.
There you go.
Oh dude, I'm so excited for that. I was listening to episode 2 and I say that I'm so excited to play like 9 times.
You're pretty hyped for it.
I'm so hyped. Deanna, you said holla to board game night. I guess that's your bread and butter.
It has become the bread and butter, yes, since Destiny has let me down.
So what are you going to be doing on board game night at Fanatix?
Honestly, it just varies. On Tuesdays, it's kind of just like whatever, like whoever shows up and whatever everybody wants to play. We kind of just gauge it by however many people show up. It varies week to week.
Mm-hmm.
But Fridays tend to always start out with me, James, and 2 of our friends playing Gloomhaven, and then everybody kind of shows up around us playing that because they literally don't even want to be there if we're not available, because then it's just like, well, who do we play board games with? It's like buy board games and then play games and then we'll be ready. But
yeah, it's weird because there's like a group of like 4 or 5 other people that will kind of just gather around us to watch the game and not play.
Yeah.
Until like an hour later, they're finally like, well, I guess we'll go play something.
It's crazy. They like get offended almost that we're doing something that they can't be involved in. It's just like, y'all can buy games and play games without us. Like, of course we enjoy playing games with those people, but I got drugged into the commitment of Gloomhaven.
It's not a bad
I gave you
drag.
a choice. I was just like,
No,
all
it's
right, we're doing
definitely not.
Gloomhaven.
It's definitely not. Because James talked one of our friends into buying the game, and then he was
Listen.
like, "Oh, you're playing this," and I was like, "Okay."
Listen, Chris, we did a board game night. Our first board game night, we gave everybody a big, I think it was like 25% off coupon.
Yes.
And basically just to get a bunch of people there so that people would know that this is a thing and they'd come back for it, which worked pretty well.
It did.
And Chris was like, or no, when I was handing them out, I was like, just so everybody knows, we've got a copy of Gloomhaven you can use this on. And at the end of the day, Chris comes up to me and he goes, so now's your chance, talk me into buying this game. And I just look at him and I go, do it. And he goes, okay. And he walks over there and gets it. I'm like, all right, we're playing Gloomhaven now.
But I mean, he had the coupon and store credit, so he actually got a really good deal on it.
Yeah, I think cash he paid something like $70 for Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
I paid
instead of like 120.
I paid 80 because the person that's playing with us gave us a check for 40 because she wanted to play.
Nice.
We are doing a series on Gloomhaven, and we've mentioned it before. James and I are playing, a 2-player campaign on Tabletop Simulator. I'm playing in real life with my wife and her friend. James is playing in real life with you. But Deanna, I want to hear your take on the game, just really quick. If we can just sell Gloomhaven a little bit more. Go ahead.
So it is definitely, if you're into any kind of story mode type of games, with miniatures and things like that, with battles. I mean, if you like D&D, it's a preset D&D, and if you're into something giving you more than just here's a campaign, do this thing, but it's a long on-running, already done for you kind of campaign. So if you like legacy board games and things like that, it's a really good place for that. It does take time to play. It's not really hard to play, and it may seem like it because it does have several rule books because there's a lot of stuff in the game, but it's not a complicated game, and it's actually a lot of fun because you work together with everybody playing with you. So you don't really have a reason to be against anybody other than the enemies on the board. So everybody works together to take everything down and beat it up. And it actually can be pretty entertaining, only at least when your attack deck works with you, because when it doesn't, it's pretty sad. But
yep.
We have 2 compilations of it not working for us on YouTube ready to go next month.
Yep.
Yeah, it's ugh. The
Oh, that
last
reminds me. I need to get to editing our last episode. I haven't done that yet. Whoops.
Dude, last episode was insane, but I don't know if we can talk about it right now. We'll talk about it
Not
when it
yet.
releases.
We'll let people talk about it when it comes out.
So, what games did you play this past week?
so Tuesday we played Ghostbusters, which is a campaign style game that me and a friend have been playing, and we drug 2 other people into our misery of where we're stuck at. And then we played another one. It's actually like a Japanese style game. I can't remember the name of it. 'Cause it's actually in a Japanese name.
Hanamoto.
Is it Hatamoto? No, is that the name of the game, or is
I
that
don't
just
know if that's the name of it,
that's a
but that's like the big
character?
thing. No, it's not the character.
Yeah,
That's like
well,
the
the
title.
first player token of the game is the Hatamoto, or whoever's in charge of the round. It starts with a S. I can't remember. And then I played Sparkle Kitty Nights, which I have gotten everybody obsessed with.
Sparkle Kitty Nights?
So I found that game at Gen Con. It is a card game where you have your own character. You have a nice character and you have a naughty character, and it plays 3 to 8 people, and everybody's either on a nice team or a naughty team, but you don't know who's on what team because your card is face down. And you have cards that make up your tower, and the goal of the game is to get rid of all the cards in your tower to reveal your knight and set them free, and you got to find your teammates. So everybody, when you play cards down, you have to say the cards on the board, and there's only going to be 2 cards on the board, and it gets pretty outrageous because it has words like daddy and squirt and things like that in it. So it gets really awkward and weird when you have to say certain things. But I've gotten everybody obsessed with it because we're all horrible people. So everybody's been amused with it, and they love this game now.
James, what games are you playing, friend?
Well, let's see. Last Friday, I pretty much only get to play games on board game days. Last Friday, I played Gloomhaven, and then I got straight to work doing other things. I think I was working on Crisis Protocol because I've set myself a time frame to be done with it, which is the 22nd because I'm heading up to Birmingham with the X-Wing guys to meet up with some of our old Destiny players up there to kind of play Crisis Protocol. And then Tuesday, Deanna and I played the game where we leave the store and go to Home Depot and build me a carrying case for my mini game out of like spare parts. So that was fun.
And once again, make everybody feel like that I had to be there for them to play a game. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, I love all my friends. If any of them listen to this, I want them to know that I love them dearly, but they can play games without me there.
Well, hold on. I want you to explain the trunk of your car.
It is very organized right now. I'm gonna throw that out there for one. There's 2 bags in the trunk that hold the board games in them, so they don't flail all over my car. And then the back of my trunk actually has a part that lifts up where you can store stuff underneath it, and it is storing all the smaller games that actually fit under there. So my car is holding like 40 board games in it right now in the trunk.
Your car is basically an ice cream truck, but instead
But
of
for
ice
board
cream,
games.
it's board games. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, at least that way, if somebody wanted to play a game, I'm like, well, I have it with me, so at least I wouldn't have to be like, well, I don't have it, so I can't play it, or teach somebody how to play it.
And I can understand where they're coming from, Deanna. You're like a warm, bubbly, nice person that has a trunk full of board games. And yeah, I would sit there and be like, "Where's Deanna? I want to play with Deanna."
One of the other guys in our group, Chris, he actually has a lot of board games. I mean, not everybody's like me where they have like all of them in their car because my collection hasn't gotten that large yet. But Chris also designs games, so he brings those with him sometimes, to show people the games he's working on making and stuff like that, which is pretty neat because he's put a lot of hours into the games he designs because he does the artwork and everything on them. So they're pretty neat. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, and he usually shows up with like 2 duffel bags full of stuff. And then there's
Okay,
another
one of those
guy.
is just Gloomhaven.
Yeah, it's true. And then there's another guy, Andrew, who usually shows up, and he shows up with like 3 duffel bags full of stuff. One of which is just all, oh god, now
Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Sentinels of the Multiverse, yeah. But yeah, like all of the board gamers that come by always bring a crap ton of stuff for everyone to kind of sit down and play. And like even to the point where like they'll take one of their games and sit down and play, and somebody will walk up to the pile and be like, "Ooh, can I play this?" And they just like take it and walk off to another part of the store and start playing it. It's almost like a collective library.
I haven't been to my local game store in about a month and a half. One, because I had the flu for 2 weeks and then a week of recovery time. And now teaching is getting a little intense put my heart and soul in that. And then I like streaming. So, I mean, I have been choosing nights to stream rather than go and play games. This week has been pretty slow for me in terms of games. My number one game this week has been the license plate game, where I stare at license plates and try to figure out funny words that I can make out of it. My favorite is a car that parks in the same spot on my way to work. It is a beautiful, fancy BMW SUV, and its license plate is YUP 50G, or yep, 50G. And I wanted to look up the price of the car because I wonder if it's like, is it a vanity plate, or because it's in the same format as New Jersey's license plates, which is 3 letters, space, and then three characters. And yep, 50G just makes me really happy.
It's probably how much they paid for the car.
Right? Yeah. Like, is it just a coincidence?
If it's a BMW, probably.
Because BMWs can run you like $45,000.
Yeah, they can.
Played Hearts with my grandfather on Sunday, which I talked about a little bit more extensively in the last episode, so I won't go into that too much. It was just the most intense game of Hearts that I ever had, and I'm looking forward to posting the picture that I took of the scorecard. Once you get to 100 points, the game ends, and Taryn, my grandfather, and myself were all above 90 in the last hand. First to 100 loses. So it was a really tight last hand, and it was a lot of fun, and we were laughing the whole time. My board games weren't really board games this week.
So, like, there's one I didn't get to mention that I did do on Saturday, which was the thing that why I was busy in the back room away from, like, everybody on the crowd of the store at Fanatix, is me and 4 other people played Firefly for 7.5 hours.
Like the
one
TV show?
Yeah, like the TV show in a board game.
Why was it 7 hours?
It was one game. We played one game. It took 7.5 hours to play.
Is it okay? So, is it scenario based, or is it like roll the dice and move on the board like Chutes and Ladders?
No, it is. You pick a card that's going to be the goal of what everybody has to do because everybody's working against each other. And they were trying to pick one that wasn't going to take the game too long because there's actually expansions. And she only added in, I think, 1 expansion to try to keep the game from taking 7 hours to play. That didn't work. It still took that long to play with 5 people. And that was after we already pretty much went over how to play the game. And the scenario we had was based around earning a certain amount of money for somebody to win, basically, or at least have the chance at winning. And I guess just the amount of money it took to win was high because you have to spend money to keep moving around the board because you're actually flying a ship, so you have to have fuel to move more spaces. So if you run out of fuel, now you have to spend money for fuel, and you have to buy jobs to do jobs to also make money. And then you have to buy people to help you do these jobs. So you're spending your money, so that takes more time to earn the money you need to do the jobs and then to get across the board to where you need to be. Because it's actually, she had a full rolled out map that was like 3.5 feet long of the board you have to go across from place to place. Yes. And I got second place.
James, please lead us into your interview with the game developer for Starlight.
We had a little bit of an audio issue where the first few seconds got deleted. When the interview starts, it'll kind of jump into him already talking, but I am talking with Brendan, I think he's like the lead developer for Starlight, who he's working as part of a company with some surprising names as part of that company, which you'll find out in the interview. Like, it blew me away when I heard it. I hope you guys enjoy it.
I have been making games for a while. My first game was released and funded on Kickstarter 2 years ago. It was called Last One Standing. And just in January, a new board game shop had opened up in town here, and I have started to work full-time with them. They're called Games Out of My Mind Games, and so it's been a lot of fun this past month and a bit.
Have you developed any other games, which you had just mentioned that you had? So is this like your second game, or have you kind of done a whole bunch of different games, and this is kind of the next one that you're just ready to put out?
Yeah, so this will be my second game that's like actually fully fleshed out. But even before Last One Standing, the game that I released on Kickstarter a couple years ago, I'd done multiple different game designs, and in between Last One Standing and Starlight, again, lots and lots of different types of games. I was really trying to force a worker placement game for a while, but that didn't quite stick. And so, about a year, well, actually more than that, a year and a half ago, had the beginning of the idea for Starlight. And so I started really exploring that. I found a really sweet artist, met him at a convention in Toronto, and I just kind of asked him if he had ever worked on a board game before. He said no, but he was interested, and so I reached out to him a couple months later, and we began working on Starlight. And so it's been a cool ride. But will be the second game that actually comes out fully fleshed out with art and gameplay and play testing and actual stuff.
Now that you mentioned it, Starlight, kind of go ahead and give us what's the grand overview for this game.
Starlight, a narrative-driven cooperative game for 1 to 4 players. You and up to 3 friends really adventure on this grand epic narrative across the draconian galaxy system, and the main loops of the Starlight gameplay that kind of hold the story together. These, I've been calling them the 4 pillars that hold the story together, and it's space exploration, space combat, world exploration, and pilot and ship customization. And so those are the 4 main gameplay elements that you take part in. And so, I can just kind of go into those 4 if you'd like, a little bit, give a brief overview.
Yeah, feel free. Anything that you'd like to let us know.
Space exploration is kind of the meta game, if you will. It's you and the colony ship that's kind of moving around and exploring space. And I don't want to spoil too much for the story, but your race is trying to find a new home. Your civilization is trying to find a new home. And so this is kind of the meta activity of building out this galaxy map as you try to search for a new home. And inevitably, you're going to come across enemies and bad guys and stuff. And this is probably the meat of the game. And it's dungeon crawly-esque. So you and anyone else who's playing control a ship, and it's very directionally based combat. And so you're maneuvering around, and the space combat, I tried as much as possible to get the feeling of a dogfight, right? Of ships kind of moving and flanking one another, and kind of coming up from behind and doing cool maneuvers and attacking one another. And so that's been the bulk of the combat. It's just really neat. And then once in a while, though, just like in Star Trek, they had to kind of beam onto a planet or do an away mission. We have these world exploration events where you actually step off the ship and you explore a planet or a moon or a research base or whatever it is. It's very Seventh Continent-esque style, very exploration focused, less combat focused. And so you're discovering, you're learning about the lore, and kind of during all this time, you're upgrading your pilot. Each pilot has unique skill trees to upgrade, and your ship, you can kit it out in so many different ways. And so those are the 4 pillars that kind of uphold the narrative that you're taking on throughout Starlight.
So to give a little bit of backstory to those listening who haven't heard us talking about the game the past couple of weeks, the first time that I heard about it was actually through an ad on Facebook that stated, this game is Gloomhaven meets X-Wing. And that one very much piqued my interest because I love both of those things, but also kind of put some massive shoes to fill right away. And I love the idea of the tactical combat, which kind of leads into the X-Wing style that mentions. And something that I like that I just heard now was the idea of having more story-focused missions, which is kind of my one big issue that I've ever had with Gloomhaven, in that every mission is kind of the same. Go here, kill all the stuff, or maybe collect your goal, and that's it. So I definitely like the idea of a more story-focused section. You did mention it was up to 4 players?
Yeah, currently we have 1 to 4 players, so fully indoor solo play, and scaling up to 4. Anything After 4 gets relatively pricey for us to produce. It's already it can be uh, an expensive game, and so you're kind of watching that. We'll probably cap it at 4. Maybe, who knows? Maybe there will be possibility for a 5th, but we'll most likely cap it at 4.
Do you have any future plans for like a mass market of this game, or is it meant to be like a Kickstarter, get it out to the people who back it type of game?
So we're going to start with Kickstarter, but one of the neat things about the company I work for, Out of My Mind Games, we're created and founded by a guy named Lance Preeb, and you might not recognize the name, but he was one of the original founders of this kids game called Club Penguin back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so he actually lives in my town. And so he sold Club Penguin to Disney with his partners, and they made a bunch of cash, and then they invested that, and so he's really invested in the gaming sphere. So up until now, he's been mostly focused on video games and mobile development, and so just about a year ago, he started this company. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, he loves board games, and so he's like, let's start a board game company. So we're very much committed to a post Kickstarter life for Starlight. And one of the neat things that we're going to try with Starlight, and we'll see how it goes, and we're open to tweaking, but just, so Gloomhaven's great. I've played through the campaign like 1 3/4 time, so a decent amount. But similar to you, there's story elements, and you kind of forget about the story, and you just like, I want to open more boxes, and it's great. But there comes a time where it's like, oh, I've played myself out. There's nothing left to discover, and so I recognize, that could happen with people with Starlight, sure. And so I've been toying and working and playtesting quite hard about bringing an end game raid like system to Starlight. So similar to Destiny or WoW or any of those MMOs, where they have the end game high level content where you need to have an upgraded character, and you do these kind of extended missions for the best loot, the best upgrades. I'm planning to do that with Starlight, and so we'll see how it unfolds. But an early vision or picture would be to pay $20-$30, and we'll send you 3 raids throughout the year. Right, you'll get mailed a package every quarter, and in that package, right, you'd have this detailed kind of high level event. And then also some sweet new gear, sweet new items, and really just a chance for people, if they want, right? We're not going to force this on people, but if you're like loving Starlight, loving the world, and you just want more of it, you can keep your character. You can maybe team up with some friends and try these really high level missions for the best gear and the best loot.
That's actually a really awesome idea. So, like, you manage to make it all the way through the base game, and then if you like it enough, you can almost subscribe to a kind of living card game style model where you get extra content every so often. That sounds like a really neat neat way to expand the game's
and
lifestyle.
kind of excited about the opportunities that can show up with that.
All right. Well, I know that right now there is a preview Kickstarter page up for it. Do you have
Yep.
a kind of window for when you're expecting to have the actual Kickstarter go live?
I do, but I think I'm going to be announcing it on Friday.
Okay.
So I can say most likely March, but stay tuned for an actual announcement. Sorry, I can't reveal it here on this podcast.
No, that definitely makes sense. That does kind of lead into my next thing, though. If people are wanting to keep track of you or hear news like Kickstarter launch dates, where can they find you?
Uh, Pretty much anywhere. Board Game Geek, Discord channel, Kickstarter page. If you search up actually you can't even search that up, but go to Facebook or Instagram, search up Starlight the game, and or Starlight board game, and you'll find us there. And so you can sign up our mailing list or kind of take along the Kickstarter page to be notified when we launch. But it's been great. We've been building up a healthy little community. And the goal really is to break through the noise, because it's Kickstarter is quite popular these days, and there's some good games on Kickstarter, just so that we can get off the gate early and well and fun, and really bring the best experience to everyone.
Yeah, I can definitely say that your Discord is pretty hopping with people in it too. I think there's over 100 people just kind of signed into it last that I checked. And like he was saying, there's lots of news and everything that gets posted there, so that's probably a pretty good way to follow the game if you're interested in it. And I think that you started doing live stream Q&As too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So every Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, on the Facebook channel, we'll doing a live stream Q&A. And so if you have questions beforehand, you can ask them on Discord, and if not, you can tune in then. And then I'll repost them on YouTube. So I think if you search Starlight, I think just Starlight on YouTube, you should be able to find us, or Starlight the game. You should be able to find the first live stream.
Well, all right, boss man. Thank you for the time and the kind of quick rundown of the game. For anyone that wants more from all this, be sure to check out the places that he mentioned, or just keep listening to us here. I'm sure that I'll be talking about the game more once we actually get our hands on it.
Great. Hey, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Okay, let's do micro D&D. So today in micro D&D, James and I are going to discuss the backstory of Mandy Fresher.
Mandy Fresher.
Mandy Fresher. Yeah, to be fair, her name is Mandy Fresher. Well, I just wanted to say, because we didn't put it in the last video, we randomly rolled personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, and I just wanted to mention what those were before we started. And I think I accidentally added a personality trait by accident.
Well, it's all right. Now you just have multiple personality disorder.
So I can have 3 personality traits. It's not a harm.
No.
Okay, so the personality traits that I had to base my character on is having a strong sense of fair play and always try to find the most equitable solution to arguments. I judge people by their actions, not their words. And when I set my mind to something, I follow through no matter what gets in my way. This is where it gets interesting. My ideals are freedom. Tyrants must not be allowed to oppress people. My bonds are a proud noble once gave me a horrible beating, and I will take my revenge on any bully that I encounter. My flaws are the tyrant who rules my land will stop at nothing to see me killed.
All of that combines together to kind of give you a nice little backstory starting off. I'm really interested to see how you worked with it.
I was born in a faraway kingdom and came from modest beginnings. My Genasi heritage was cultivated and enriched by my mother and father. During my teenage years, there was a change in power in the castle, and a young prince was to be coronated to kinghood. Shortly after his reign began, the newly christened king had chosen a bride, an heir Genasi girl, like myself, of exquisite beauty. After the wedding, the king's guard spread through the kingdom in search for handmaidens to aid this exotic queen. The soldiers knocked on every door, including my family's. My parents answered, and the guard stated that I would be a perfect candidate for the queen's body double. My parents were upset by this proposition and asked if there was another way or another girl, because I was their only daughter. Having me spend my entire life protecting the queen's identity would mean never seeing me again. The guards pushed past my parents and took me, stating, "She will serve this kingdom." I was brought to the castle against my will, never to spend time with my family again. Instead, I was taught to read and write. My lower-class looks and wardrobe were replaced by high-end accessories and clothing. Everything I owned was an exact replica of the queen's belongings. I spent time with the queen daily, learning her mannerisms, speech patterns, body language, and gait. I worked tirelessly to become a copy of someone else. The queen was particularly fond of music and asked the court musicians for lessons, but the king disallowed it. She ordered me to receive lessons in her stead, so during our daily meetings, I could play music for her. I learned to play the lute, pan flute, and drum. After a decade of replacing the queen in large gatherings, taking her place in dangerous meetings, and pretending to be someone I wasn't, something terrible unfolded. The queen had been caught having an affair with a high-ranking officer in the king's guard. This would mean dire consequences for the queen and the promiscuous soldier. When the two were brought to the king to explain their infidelities, the queen screamed, "It was not me, your highness. My body double is the one responsible for this. She was the one fooling with your guard under the bed sheets, not me. I am loyal in my love to you. The squire that found them was unable to tell the difference between Mandy and I in the darkness. After a short deliberation, the king believed the queen's explanation, and I was dragged from her quarters to stand beside the soldier before their king. The king nodded to his general. The general stepped alongside his subordinate and drew his broadsword. Soldier, the king began, you have made some grave decisions that have smeared the queen's reputation in this castle and soon to the kingdom. This not only affects her, but me as well. If these actions go unpunished, I will be seen as a weak and spineless ruler. Your time of service has ended. Kneel so your title of King's Guard may be stripped from you. The guard knelt silently, and I took a step back. Without hesitation, the general beside him swung his blade in an arc, decapitating the soldier in the hall. I screamed at the sight and turned to run, but the general restrained me. You should have known better, the king declared. You are to act as the queen would act. You are the queen in everything but title. Your consequence will not be as quick as his. The king slapped me across the face. The things you provide for this kingdom are too valuable just to take your life. He slapped me again. I tried to pull away. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of my situation. My life was lonely, but peaceful. I had never felt such rage directed at me before. I was slapped a third time. You will be confined to your quarters. Slap. Kept alive with meager meals. Slap. And only leave when your service is required. Slap. We will find another genasi to groom and refine. Slap. And when she is ready to take your place, you will be executed. A punch landed on my eye this time that caused stars to fill my vision that gave way to darkness. I awoke in my room the following afternoon. When I inspected myself, I found 2 hand-shaped bruises around my biceps from where the general had seized me. Both sides of my face were still red and stinging. I had a black eye from the beating the king gave me the night before. I stood in front of my mirror for a time as I thought to myself, this is not the reflection of the queen. I am not a doppelganger. I am not a clone. My parents taught me to be proud of my heritage and helped me practice the skills of the genasi. The queen had let those go in the wake of nobility and comfort. I am a skilled musician, an ability the queen was barred from having. I love to write, read, and sing. The queen hasn't even brushed the dust off her bookshelves or hummed a tune in ages. I am Mandy fresh air. I will not be killed for someone else's actions. I gathered a pack and filled it with my belongings, my instruments and calligraphy set tucked away as well. I opened the window, ran towards the opening, leapt, and floated to the vivid garden below. I deftly slipped away from the castle and kingdom, knowing full well that I would be hunted for by the king's men. I knew too much of the castle, its king, and his kingdom to be free for long. I just wanted a taste of making my own choices for as long as it could last.
That was pretty fantastic. Gives me a good bit to work on. The king, I get to figure out who he is and how he's hunting you down. The general that grabbed you, and the queen, and a few other little side characters. So,
Yay!
it'll be a good time.
I did a good job.
You did a good job.
Yay! It was so much fun to write. I want to write more. So, James, where can you find Fanatix of Dothan, Alabama?
You can find us pretty much everywhere as Dothan Fanatix. So that's Dothan Fanatix on Facebook, Dothan Fanatix on YouTube, at Dothan Fanatix on Instagram and Twitter and all the things.
Where can you find it in real life, though?
You can find it in real life in Dothan, Alabama, about 10 minutes away from the border of Florida, because that's our claim to fame.
In the middle of all the road construction work, making it really impossible to get into the store because it's really annoying, and that's my rant on that.
Yo, they've cut off like all but one of our entrances, and it's so annoying.
So if you go to Dothan,
God.
look for all the orange cones on the Dothan Circle, and you will find
Yes, Fanatix.
Fanatix. Right next to a giant muscle man statue.
Muscle Peanut Man statue.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, it
It's
is
a
a peanut
man.
man.
We are the peanut capital. Peanuts everywhere.
Ew, you're the peanut capital?
Yep.
Dothan is the peanut capital of the world.
You can find footage of the weekly tournaments on our YouTube channel, which is currently named Jackalmen Games. Still, we'll be switching. I'm gonna say March. I think March is our changeover period, James.
Sounds good to me.
Now it's recorded. We got to do it. It's gonna change over to Fanatix Media. Our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Jackalmen Games, but that will. I don't know if that's possible to switch over. If it is possible to change our channel name, it will change to Fanatix Media as well. You can find us on our podcast, Fanatix Media Radio. I wonder how you got here. We are working on getting on iTunes. I'm working on getting us on Spotify and Google Play.
Threw a couple words into this podcast that you're going to have to go back and edit, so have fun.
Yep. I'm going to have to edit those words.